Wow, this album grew on me quite a bit. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this one to just creep up on me the way it friggin' did. Neko Case is a singer-songwriter that's been going at it for years, man. In the 2000s, she had some great albums like Blacklisted that so many people will like already know. The indie crowd will already know at this point. In 2016, she dropped that collaborative album that quite a few people jumped onto because it was a pretty lovely folk album that I liked, but I didn't really feel like it was anything worth returning to, mostly just because I thought it was nice on the ears, but not much else really grabbed me, to be honest. Perhaps I should return to it though, we'll see. But yeah, this new album, Hell On, heard it once, thought it was alright. Took me a while to get back to it though, because there's been quite a lot of releases lately that I've wanted to get to and talk about. But then I realised that actually, you know what, I should go back to these kind of albums because, you know, there's a lot more substance to this than there was that Gorillaz album, the Drake album, and plenty of other releases that get, you know, shoved to the spotlight, but then ones like this kind of just go under the radar slightly. Not to say that everything indie is better or everything popular is bad. I know that can be a little bit of a hipster type opinion that some people have, but generally I feel this year specifically, the albums that have kind of flew under the radar while other big releases have come out, they've kind of been the better ones in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, Neko Case on this one kind of does her own thing once again, but I just feel like there's so much colour to the instrumentation this time around. I mean, you know, she could have easily dropped a pretty lovely sounding folk album, but she went pretty adventurous on this one. It's very well produced, there are lots of different instruments that come into play. It certainly gives me a feel of like Richard Dawson at times as well, with her lyricism and her poeticism. She's really poetic on this album. I think a lot of tracks you have to kind of read into a few times before you kind of like pick up on what she's kind of going on about and singing about and stuff, which is always good for music because I like learning new things about an album the more I listen. I do like the way she kind of like drops in little references every so often about love. Like, it's not like it's a forefront of this album, but I like the way she kind of just brings it up so sort of subtly. Like, it's not like something that needs to be tackled head on, but that's because it's kind of like part of our lives without us always noticing, and when you don't put it at the forefront, it's always there. And I like the way she kind of just like sneaks it in every so often. I think she's a really talented songwriter in that sense. She can keep you interested in a myriad of different ways, whether it's through her really melodic hooks that she throws in on some of these tracks, which is just like really out of nowhere because I just wasn't expecting to have so much to pull out of this album in a melodic sense than I initially anticipated, but also keeping it to its roots. It's very lavish storytelling and really you know, detailed lyrics that, you know, I don't know, man, I feel like a lot of lyricism just gets ignored these days, and then you come across someone like Neko Case and she just gets it, man. Bad Luck is a pretty silly track, pretty eccentric, I must admit. Perhaps eccentric for the sake of being eccentric because of the way she just throws in these ridiculous like things that can be just considered bad luck. I suppose you could call this her version of Ironic by Alanis Morissette, which is also a track that just takes these ridiculous things and puts them to the forefront as if they're just normal, when in actuality like they're just things that never happened. But I think Neko Case can sell being eccentric incredibly well, man. Like, I don't hear many singer-songwriters that can be poetic, can be melodic, and also just throw in this weird sort of like wacky bizarre type element and it all be enjoyable. At points her lyrics sometimes come across as like the Oscar speech that Frances McDormand did earlier in this year 2018, where it's just like, I mean, am I in another dimension here? Like, what the hell is she going on about? Like, what is this? And I feel like Neko Case is the equivalent to that at times. I must admit, I do think her lyrics are sometimes a bit overly profound to the point where you're just a bit like, what is it exactly that she's talking about? But again, that sort of weirdness like accentuates her personality, and I love it when artists' personality just brim on an album. Like it just really shines through, because you just get so much more than just an artist telling a story. And I think Neko Case can give you a lot of different aspects of what it is to be a songwriter. At times I'm reminded of Regina Spektor's latest album as well, in the sense that it can be really gorgeous in its sound and just really whimsical in its feeling as well, in the melodies. It really does just grab you in ways that you wouldn't usually expect. This is probably one of the more unique singer-songwriter albums this year that also can just grab you in with its sound. I love the stompiness of the closing track, that hook, that refrain that she continuously sings. It's a slow build at the start, but then when she gets to that point, it just really hits and you're like, yes. I love you better when you're wild. I suppose the only track I don't like that much, not really much at all actually, is Sleep All Summer, which is a duet track. I mean, Eric as a vocalist sounds really good here. You know, I'm not taking away from the performances because it sounds genuine and just straight from the heart, but it's a bit corny, and I don't know if it should be corny. Perhaps it's just me, but it does sound like your average ballad that would have come from like the 70s, you know, like a country, two country singers to like coming together and doing like a really corny duet. It's a skippable track actually. Like I know I don't usually say this about albums that I really enjoy, but yeah, I don't know what it is about this, man. It actually feels quite out of place as well. Like the opening moments of the track where this male vocalist comes out of nowhere, and I'm just a bit like, why, what, where, who is this guy, where's he come from, what is the addition to the album like here? I don't know, but I would say everything else on this album hits, and everyone involved is fantastic. Like the instrumentation again on this album is produced incredibly well. There are some really nice guitar moments, there are nice piano moments, like everything here just feels like warm and to the point, and also a little bit odd, which I like. It's not gonna be like really high on my year-end list, but I think it's gonna stick with me because I really do appreciate Neko Case here, because I think she's a really good songwriter, a rarity in the music world, I must say, and I kind of wish this one got a lot more attention than it did. I'm going an 8 out of 10, quite a light 8 out of 10, I must admit, but still an album that I think is very good and worth your time. And go listen to it, because I know again it's only really been talked about by a few critics that are really liking it, but generally it's sort of flew under the radar, which is a shame because I think it's a great album. So yeah, go check it out. One of my favorites of the year. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. Have a good day. Boom da dum, boom da dum, boom.